Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome Forefront family to the Monday, your Monday Open Studio. This is Open Studio number 6, the second Open Studio for cohort number 2 with our resident creators �NICO, 𝐫𝐞𝐿, and Demo. Welcome my friends, how are you?
Doing great.
Pretty good.
Amazing.
Hi.
Amazing.
We're good.
Hello everyone. So just a couple of questions that I've been meaning to ask, and when I got on the call, I heard �NICO and 𝐫𝐞𝐿 chatting about this. What is behind you, 𝐫𝐞𝐿? What is this? It looks like a mad scientist sort of set up with some sort of wall of machinery blinking and winking at us. What is this?
So this is my modular synthesizer that I use in the studio and also for my live performances. And essentially this is how in the 60s, before they put the keyboard on the synthesizer, how they started out the evolution of generating sounds through with electricity. And all the modules that you see there, you take these patch cables like you had back in the day, you know, when you would make overseas calls, like one of these, you know, and then you can just connect like a source to target. And then something happens. So this is what I need to do whenever there's no presets, nothing. So whenever I want to create a sound, I need to, you know, wire the kind of signal flow from, you know, like the oscillator to the filter to the kind of VCA. And yeah, this gives me a lot of freedom, but obviously it's also a lot of things to keep in mind. Like when you're on a dark stage, there's just so many things you can plug in wrong, and then no sound will come out, or like a sound you don't want to hear. So that's always what I've been dealing with.
Amazing. And you take this along with you for all of your live performances?
Yeah, I was just telling this story how I was playing a show in Cologne, and basically it breaks down into two parts. It has these screws, and then you can kind of collapse it, and one part goes into a backpack and the other one goes into like this big pelly case. But it's just so heavy, and like I was coming home by train and I had to walk down and up flights of stairs and carrying this 20 kilos behemoth, and after a while you just get tired and think of how easy it would be if you just take your laptop. But it's just not the same. So it's a very physical, visceral experience. So I guess the carrying is part of the performance somehow.
Yes, I love that you refuse to compromise. So with 𝐫𝐞𝐿 kicking us off, I feel like with the Open Studio, we get to be a little bit more informal about what we chat about. So now that 𝐫𝐞𝐿 has kicked us off, maybe have a little bit of a deeper sense of place where each of our resident creators are. �NICO, if I had to guess, it looks like you're in a basement somewhere due to the wood rafters, due to like the fluorescent lighting. Am I close?
And it's technically not a basement, but it does not have window. I'm crashing with a friend in Oakland, and she's a glass artist, so she lives in this warehouse, and she just lets like her community of friends just come and go and then sleep over. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Amazing, amazing. Is it just you? Are you the only friend that's sharing space right now, or are you joined by others?
Right now it's just me and 2 other girls, but like a few weeks ago they had like 8 people here, and I missed the hype.
But are you finding the quiet is the Bay Area kind of proving to be a fruitful place for you to be creating during this residency? Are you getting out to sightsee, or are you mostly indoors?
The Bay Area is beautiful. I've never really lived here, and I've been looking for a more permanent place to settle in. And I feel like the Bay Area, I'm like looking at the realty prices here. Like hopefully one day if I can like make enough income, I would like to be settled here. I went out for the first time over the weekend to check out this community garden, also as field research for this project, and it was so cool. People there are really friendly, and they taught me like, you know, some basic things about gardening. So overall, it was super fun.
Amazing. Awesome, awesome. And this community garden are just folks in the neighborhood pitching together, harvesting and sharing the fruits of that.
Yeah, so it's this family business, and then the government basically they wrote a proposal to the government saying that they want to turn this vacant land to a community garden, and government basically just gave them the land to operate on. So they turned that into like, you know, like all sorts. They had like all sorts of fruits and vegetables, and then they accept walk-in volunteers. So whenever you're free, you can just walk in. and you spend a whole day working with them, hanging out, and then for the reward, they give you, they allow you to take whatever you want to take from the garden. So I just took some mint. It was really nice.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Because I'm in Portland, and walking around, especially in the earlier part of spring, you really get this very vivid idea of how fruitful and fecund nature is. Like we have one tree over in the corner here, a pear tree, and it's so fruitful that literally all of the fruit just like falls from the tree and rots and just bakes there for the entire summer. It's just one tree is too much for even one family to take from, much less an
Wow.
entire. People just walk past it, and we're dodging the dying fruit on the street, and that's just one. And this entire block has like cherry trees and apple trees and pear trees, and it's just too much for anyone to even eat from, much less a community garden. So yes, it truly is a beautiful reminder of how fruitful nature is, and really how abundant nature is. So Demo, my friend, moving on to you. I am curious about the
Hi there.
graffiti. It looks like there is graffiti
Yeah.
on the wall.
I'm at my girlfriend's room because actually right now I'm like kind of homeless because I'm used to live with my family, but they're moving right now, and they're like in the process. So I'm living here right now to be like more comfortable. And yeah, like all the walls are like kind of painted. We've been painting this. It's mostly by my girlfriend who paints and draws a lot. There's a poster by me that I printed, but yeah, it's all painted. But it's been years in the process. Maybe we were talking about like really like covering everything and doing it like more thought before like a mural or something. But yeah, I am here and I'm pretty comfortable. It's like my second house. The cat that I was showing you the other day, it's her cat. And yeah, it's here in Buenos Aires, in my city. Yeah, in Buenos Aires. Here I am.
I remember you telling the community and me that your dream is to be in the Patagonia.
Absolutely. It's the south here from Argentina, and it's a really, really beautiful place. I've been there the last 5 summers in a row, or last 6 summers in a row. I've been to the Patagonia like a month or a month and a half, maybe. I got some family that lives there. They have a big farm in Bolson, which is a place pretty like down, going like to the south of Argentina, and it's so beautiful for real. As you're saying, Caroline, there's a lot of trees with a lot of fruits, and like the fruits are like abounding in the streets and it's so abundant, everything there. And yeah, I would love to live there.
Yes, that sounds lovely. I'm rooting for that dream, my friend. So let us dive into the actual Web3 creator residency. We'll just ping pong it. Nico, for folks that are like tuning in for the first time or not too familiar with you, can you kind of do an elevator pitch of your residency project for the Forefront fam?
Elevator pitch. Okay, so is it okay if it's more than one sentence? Because I haven't had. No. So I'm working on, originally this idea was a multimedia art piece that kind of renders a virtual prototype of an eco-village, with the goal of building the actual physical eco-village. And right now in the last week, I think I've developed this into more beyond just like a multimedia art piece, but it can also be considered as a video game where like you get to kind of use these elements and then build a village. It's basically a virtual eco-village video game building, I guess, idea. I'm not gonna be able to make the game in the 4 months, but that's the concept, with the goal of actually use this to help building the actual eco-village.
Amazing. That is so
Very long
fascinating.
pitch.
No. That was good. That was actually good, and we'll dive more into it. Demo, how about you, my friend? Can you give a short description of your residency project for the Forefront fam?
Mainly I think that my project is like showing my way of creating, and I take demo as an artistic project. Like I started to get in touch with visual art like 3 years ago, and that's when I called it demo, because I thought it was just like a demonstration. My main artistic journey was music, and it suddenly turned into my main project. And yeah, I'm really passionate about it, and I want to show my process, and I want to get into it and get people into it and show how this goes inside the world that I'm creating. And so yeah, this week I'm gonna be showing the collection that I'm making, and I'm gonna get into the universe that I'm creating. So yeah, that's mainly it.
Awesome. We'll dig into that later. Thank you, Demo. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Kabuki. Tell us a little bit in a capsule version about your residency project, please.
So I'm a musician by trade, but I really got into like all other aspects of art in the past decades. So I think my title is multidisciplinary artist, however you want to interpret this. So I build sound installations, and I'm very much kind of intrigued by generative art, and also experimented with this as a form of expression. So for my forefront residency, I'm going to build a generative NFT that somehow deals with sound and with images. And yeah, this is kind of my main goal, to deliver something like a working, not even a prototype, but like a final result by the end of week 4.
Amazing. Ambitious, but amazing. I look forward to it. Thank you, Kabuki. So Nico, let's go back to you, and let's dive in a little bit further into what you've been doing with the fam and what you'll be doing for this week. Can you tell us kind of a summary? I attended both sessions. I found them to be absolutely fantastic. Can you give us a summary of of the ground that you covered with the Forefront family last week, and then give us a sneak peek of what you have in store for us, please?
Yeah, sure. So last week the live stream was mostly just kind of more of a philosophical journey of where I've been, and then, like some of creative process I've had. My path of finding my faith, aka my God, my belief system, and then how these influenced me into creating art, because I think they're super essential, I guess, to me or to any creators. And then I felt that when I'm creating without like without like a higher belief, compared to when I'm creating with a higher belief, like I think the result is like night and day. So so that's why I felt it was important to cover that. So that was during the live stream, but outside of the live stream, I've been mostly just working on the technical aspect of this thing, which I will demonstrate more this week. So this week I will demonstrate like video recordings of the process of the village coming together, with Blender, with 3D modeling, and then putting it into Unity and arrange it in an interactive way. So this week I aim for the sessions to be a lot more technical.
Awesome, awesome. And for folks that have not yet caught up or saw the live streams, what is the higher belief? And it could be a grouping. What are the higher beliefs that are sort of at the heart of your residency project?
The higher belief for the residency project, well, I wanted to create something that can, okay, this is gonna sound super cheesy and very LA. I want to create something that elevate the consciousness of like people around us. We want to elevate the collective vibration, but but I actually really believe that, as a purpose, we're like, like, to put it in a different term, we want to make the world a better place. And then when you say better, it's like, how do you like define better, right? Like maybe one person's heaven is another person's hell. But I think one thing that we can all agree on is just we want to live in beautiful environments, right? Like no one wants to choose to live in a place where there is no trees, or like, where you like your room actually purposefully stink. I feel like everyone wants to live in that's like a common ground that we can find as humanity to elevate that. That's why the residency project is a prototype of an eco village where we can kind of see how, like, technically how can we live at harmony with nature. And then I combine that with the idea of like celebrate ancient beliefs and religions and faiths. So the style of the eco village is gonna have a lot of reference from different ancient from different cultures and ancient temples, and I use that as like a way to like beautify this eco village, because it's not enough for it to just be like environmental friendly, but it also should look really inspiring and nice, and then make people want to stay there. So that's the whole concept.
Remarkable. So you were kind of making fun of yourself with saying elevating consciousness being your central belief animating your project. You said it was very LA. So we know from your live streams that you've spent time in California. I think you spent time specifically in LA for a long period of time. Do have you been familiar? Have you been involved in projects that had their belief apparently as elevating consciousness, and there was the air quotes around them? You later discovered that I'm not quite sure if elevating consciousness is truly something that they're authentically pursuing, or could it be something else? I'm asking this question because I think you took a very nuanced approach in your live stream to looking at utopian communities and where they can go wrong. You looked at sort of different, you could say, ideologies of like clusterings of beliefs, and through your research, through your own personal experience, you talked quite a bit about how these utopian villages can go wrong, how they can fall to the extreme of one side or the other. What would you say, what is the process that you go through, even at this early stage, to make sure that the utopian village that you're ideating doesn't fall to an extremist side, doesn't become overly ideological, but actually is fluid and adaptable, and open and truly decentralized? How are you preparing yourself for these risks?
I think that intention is really important, and having like a lot of times, like I think this happens in a lot of like eco-friendly initiatives where, greenwashing is a thing where people try to make their business to seem like they're doing great work so that they attract customers, but their deeper intention is really just to attract customers. But I'm not saying all businesses operate like that. I think there's a lot of great businesses that operate with like a core principle of wanting to, do the right thing. So I think a lot of times, like I don't want to make judgment of, oh, these are the businesses that are doing that, these are not. But I've personally kind of felt there's some times where I've gotten really into like a business or a brand. I was like, wow, this brand is awesome. And then looking into behind how they operate, and then hearing friends that worked for that brand, and then realize, okay, like you're just saying these things, but you actually treat your employees like shit. And then people actually didn't enjoy working with you, and then you like jack up the price. Anyways, I think I don't know if there's one solution to that, but I do think it's important to just keep in mind what's like the intention. And I think the intention is, it should be less about like you advertise it, but it should really like be in your day-to-day life. Like I think it's ironic when people are going to conferences and giving talks about climate while they go back and then treat their gardens like shit, or treat their family like shit, and like treat their friends not well. And then I think that's probably like in a more general way, it should be like elevating consciousness. It should be a day-to-day practice. Doesn't matter which industry you're in, like like how you treat yourself, how you treat the people around you, how you treat your environment, and then you can be running like some sort of I don't know, like organic food industry, but if you like just act super wasteful on a day-to-day basis, then kind of that defeats the purpose. And I think it shouldn't be for too much for show, for other people to see that you're doing good. If you just know that you're doing good, even if nobody sees that, that's still like it should be a very fulfilling and satisfying feeling.
I love that. And I want to be a little bit provocative here, because I am also, so forgive me, Nico. I am someone that is constantly tinkering and creating in my own little world. And something that I think about a lot is the story that I tell to bring people into the world that I'm building. And sometimes it's for very particular reasons, like I'm trying to look for collaborators, I'm trying to look for, let's say funding or help of some kind. And the language that you use to connect with people is very important. So I'm interested, Kabuki or Demo, when you hear that, elevating consciousness is a central belief that is motivating Nico. Is that language something that you personally resonate with, or do you kind of do you have, or do experiences come through your mind of folks that were like posers and had this sort of belief system at their work and it turned out to be not the case? How do you personally, and like I said, I don't mean to be I don't mean to cause any trouble for Nico, because I absolutely believe she's being 100% authentic. But I am curious about that language. Like, is it something that we can use with the world in general, or is it something that's incredibly niche that we can only bring to a relatively small part of humanity and have them understand what we're talking about? When you hear the phrase elevating consciousness, what comes up for you?
I mean, I was already typing in the chat, like, I believe that was the tagline for WeWork. So this is, the kind of association I have. But nevertheless, I think it always depends where it comes from. If it comes from a place of, sincerity, then why shouldn't you say what you believe? I think that's perfectly acceptable. But I mean, Nico already said that the whole echo kind of movement has become a big business. So you obviously have a lot of kind of actors in the space that are there for purposes of profit and profit only. And I think, maybe the way I would see it, using different words, like what Nico also mentioned, like it should be a holistic system. You can't just say I care for the environment, but then you're being mean to other people, because everything has a knock-on effect and everything is somehow related. So in that sense, I feel, I'm very conscious what kind of terminology I use around which people, because I try to anticipate the association they get from how I explain something, So even when we talk about Web3, there's a lot of terminology I just avoid to use, because I just feel like also I don't feel comfortable. There's certain things like WAGMI is something I don't like. I never use, and I don't want to use it, just simply because I feel it's dishonest. If you think that is a possibility, as much as you would like for everybody to win, there's just certain aspects in life that are a zero-sum game, as sad as it is. So I just always like to be very mindful of the words that I use, just to kind of avoid wrong associations. So, but I think, if that's what you feel, I think global consciousness obviously is a very interesting subject, to see how enlightenment, however you want to call this, how this, goes through phases. And, if you look back a few hundred years, how certain teachings were, or like certain behaviors were accepted, whereas others are not, and how this developed over time. I think there's definitely also, there's possibilities to elevate the global consciousness, if you want to use that terminology, just by, standing up for what's right and kind of making sure that the world is a better place for everyone, But I think it's also like I have to be careful, because I have a pessimistic tendency, so I always can fall down that that hole where the glass is always half full and not half empty and not half full, right? So so it's good to have a little bit of an optimistic touch and believe in the kind of best qualities of humanity to kind of work their way through. So more power to that.
100%. How about you, Demo? Do you have anything to add, my friend? Do you optimism, pessimism?
No, I think that elevating consciousness itself, it's rooted in something that it's really important for everyone and for the whole world and humanity. I feel like if we take away all the fake things that we might associate it with, is something that is really important, and so I think that it's a cool thing to use these words and these phrases that might mean a lot, but with time, due to several maybe reasons that certain people use it in a fake way, these important and like charged words and concepts lose their power, but they're pretty powerful. So I think that if Nico like has this this objective, and it's related with elevating consciousness, but in a real way. I think it's cool to use it and to appropriate this phrase into a real meaning.
Before I let you go, and again, I hope, Nico, that you're not too upset with me with like being a little provocative and asking Kabuki and Demo how they think, but I wanted to circle back to something that I'm fascinated with, which is the pivot to you deciding to do a video game. Can you kind of go over that decision making process again? Because I thought that was a super interesting pivot for you to make with your project.
I kind of like just was something that's really natural, and I actually had this project planned for a while. I just didn't want to get started on it because it's just really hard to complete by one person. But as we were thinking about like, okay, the goal is to build an actual eco village and then use that as a prototype. And then like use that as a proof of concept that this can be done. You know, you can build an eco village with like modest budget, and you can have the system to be set up to be very like self-sustainable and eco-friendly, and people can enjoy the usage of it. So I've been really thinking about, okay, like, so if that's the goal, and I'm like right here, and I got no money, and I got no team, and I got like none of these things, what's the best way to get there? So I thought about a lot of different approaches, and realizing that maybe the best approach for me to do is to do things that I'm good at. So like, you know, it will make more sense for me to do some art and then create some interactive experience rather than me writing a blog, you know, because like I'm not the best writer compared to a lot of other people, but in certain fields that I've had practice for years, that maybe I could use that to, you know, as a way to like leverage myself to get closer to that goal. And with the Forefront residency, because it's an artistic residency, I really wanted to just focus on, you know, creating beautiful renders to make it look really nice. But as I was creating these renders, I was like, okay, all of these elements I'm creating, if they can actually be used as a game, and then, you know, like if I already have these assets and I already have this environment, like it wouldn't be that hard for me to like make a little demo about it. Also, I recently had a conversation with people that had experience in launching projects, and then what they were saying, just like, you don't have to personally do everything by yourself. Just do what you can and do a proof of concept, and then maybe more people can join. And that's what I would love to have, is just more people to join on this project. So in the end, I was like, oh, like if I don't have to make the complete game, maybe I can make the game. Because before I was thinking like, oh, if I start this project, I have to make everything, like the whole engineering structure, and then that was just really intense, and I didn't want to take charge. But now I think about it differently, I guess, and then realize it's actually a realistic goal.
Awesome. Are you familiar with Buckminster Fuller?
Yes, love him, the hippie scientist.
Yeah, the hippie scientist. Have you looked into his world game?
Not yet. I haven't heard about that concept.
Yeah, look it up. Buckminster Fuller. I think it is called World Game, and he essentially built out this strategy computer game using like a whole like a plethora of very powerful computers that were supposed to simulate strategy and the allocation of resources. And so this game, I think I'm pretty sure he was the one that developed it, and it's been played all over the world, and I think people have taken it and sort of run with it and further developed it. So when I think about what you said when you first became obsessed with like playing video games that were like management simulation games, and now you're thinking about starting to do a prototype for the Eco Village, that's kind of what pops into my mind. So just wanted to share that with you, my friend.
Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Sounds super interesting.
Sweet.
By the way, just to jump in there, Buckminster Fuller had also a really fascinating working ritual that's covered in the book that I was speaking about last week. So he's a really kind of, he's a character, let's put it that way. If you find the time to check out the book that I posted in Arena, there's a whole chapter on his working habits and his attitude. So definitely, inspiring character.
Well, now that you've made us curious, can you give us a short description of what his ritual was, please?
Okay, let me quickly look it up.
Let's go to you, Demo,
I'm
while
sorry.
Kabuki is looking up the... No worries at all. While Kabuki is looking up the information about Buckminster. fuller. So tell us a little bit, for the Forefront family that's just getting caught up, tell us a little bit about the ground that you covered last week, and then a little bit more about what you have in store for us this week, my friend.
Okay, first session last week, I made a presentation which I was gonna do on PowerPoint, but I decided to make it on Blender, which is the 3D software that I use. So yeah, it was fun for me to make, and to not only like put these images that I wanted to present, but also put the objects around these images, so I was able to show maybe my main inspirations, the things that inspire me to create what I create, and yeah, maybe that's what I talked about the most, I think, in my first session. And in the second session, I created live. I wanted to show the way in which, like, nature and my way of creating, which is I don't really know when I start creating something what it's gonna be, and that's what I did. I started sculpting an object, and then I went to Midjourney, which is an artificial intelligence platform, and I created an image with a prompt, and I took it to the software, and I blended everything, and yeah, it went pretty well. I wanted to show, like, in maybe half an hour the way in which it goes, so it was kind of like time limited, but I think I was able to show the way in which it's pretty easy. And maybe from the outside you can see some 3D environment and think that's, if you don't know about the software, you might think that's impossible to create. But I really want to show how these tools are so straightforward if you give it the time to learn. It's really I wouldn't say easy, but yeah, it's accessible, and I love this from the time we're living in. We with a computer you can make so much stuff, different from Kabuki that has all these modulators, and he was saying that he needs to go carrying everything on his back, which is really admirable. On the contrary, myself, I love this concept of making a lot of things with just this tiny computer that I have. I'm like amazed by it, and yeah, so I want to show that. So yeah, this week I'm gonna be more in depth. It will be more on the technical side and creating live. And I will also be making music for some pieces that I have already finished for this collection, and I will make the music live, and I want to show also the process of doing this. So yeah, excited for it.
Very cool. Very cool. And can you tell the Forefront family a little bit more about your collection YH4? First of all, what does the name mean?
I don't actually know. It would be mainly like 1 molecule of yttrium and 4 of hydrogen. I love these concepts of like I don't know how you say it in English, but yeah, like different molecules and stuff, like scientific stuff, which I don't know anything about, but I just like it aesthetically. So yeah, I don't know why those little like letters, like YH4, the 4 is like on the upper side. Yeah, I don't know why, but it inspired me. I thought that it really resembled me to this universe. This combination of yttrium and hydrogen, I like searched up, and it would explode the whole world. So if they combined, yeah, something like that, yeah. But there's a lot of combinations of several like things that are not not possible, and if it would be done, this would like make a big explosion. So yeah, it was interesting to me because this YH4 collection is about a different universe, pretty similar to the world we're living in, because it has creatures and biomes that are resembling to our world. But it was interesting to me that this combination would explode this world and will create this new world, which I'm creating, and I want to get more in depth. These days I've been making like some other stuff, and I've been working for other people, so I had this last month maybe this YH4 collection on the side, so it's interesting for me to get back on it due to the residency, and I've been thinking of maybe new biomes to cover. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna be mainly doing, like showing this whole universe that has a lot of creatures and biomes, and I want to connect it all, like make a more cohesive connection between all the artworks that are mainly portraying this universe that I want to create. I always loved like the artists that I most admire usually are the ones that create like these whole universes. Carlo, on my presentation I showed an encyclopedia that an artist from Italy, it's a whole encyclopedia of an unexistent world. It's like 500 pages. It's called Codex by Luigi Serafini, and it's really interesting. It's a whole encyclopedia of a world that doesn't exist, with a lot of creatures and a lot of explanations which are so surreal but are also resemblant of this world. And yeah, I've been always like really inspired by these kind of artists that create a whole universe. So that's what I mainly want to do, like dive into this universe and discover new things about it.
Amazing. Do you speak Italian, or are you reading a translation of?
No, I am not reading a translation or anything, because the guy is Italian, but it's all written in a language that no one knows but this person. Yeah. It not only has all these drawings which are really exotic and amazing, it's like 500 pages of this language that no one knows but him, and it's all written, it's amazing. And by the way, no, I don't speak Italian.
Amazing. Yes. So Dwayne is asking, did he make up that language? So this is reminding me of like J.R. Tolkien, who literally was one of the best world builders that have ever lived. Made up a language in all these sort of different worlds. For you, how are you when you're? And I love how you're nerding out on YH4. And I have to say, I resonate with this, because the table of elements is something that completely compels me. Like I'm so fascinated by the table, by the chemical table of elements. And through the years, it's interesting, my friend. I would recommend that you look through the years at how sort of the visual representation of the table of elements has changed. Like in the beginning, it was just like this block, this big square of like all the different elements. And through the years, it's taken on all sorts of different formations and shapes and geometric worlds. So I would recommend that you look into that. But I love the backstory of you like combining elements that are actually not possible in our world and would like cause destruction if they were combined. I love this backstory, and these are the little details from creators that absolutely make me fall in love with the story, because there's just something there that tickles the imagination when you know the seeds that kind of gave birth to it. But when you're creating these biomes of YH4, are you actually like writing down? Do you have like, when you're world building, is it like you're writing down, you're keeping track of these are the creatures, these are their sort of different habitats, this is what they prey upon, these are the predators of these creatures? Do creatures have relationships? They're warring, they're feuding, they're collaborating. Is this like how thought out your YH4 universe is? Or is it, you're not really writing it down, it's just in your head?
Yeah, it's mainly in my mind. I would like to write it down. Maybe these sessions that I have this week, possibly before the sessions, I will start making this kind of charts where I want to do that, yeah, like have a chart with everything laid down, but like in a way that resembles to the aesthetic that the whole collection has. But yeah, it's all like written down in my mind. I do have these connections between the creatures and between the biomes, but it's all in my mind. So I really want to put it down and make it more tangible, because I will be able to connect things in a more like senseful way.
Yes, yes. I would be keen for that, and I almost think that I mean, obviously, it would take you so much longer if you were actually having to write and document and world build as a storyteller on top of making the visuals. But I almost think that layer of storytelling that was made more explicit would offer like more inroads. It would offer more inroads for people to actually discover and then engage with your universe. Right now, it would be more of just like an
I agree.
intuition or a speculation. We know that Demo, the creator, has created YH4, and it's a biome, and it's all the creatures have a history and relationships with each other and the ecology, but we don't really see transparently into that. So that would be
You're,
fascinating and an
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
question to see you wrestle with. Yeah.
You're right, and I thought of that. Like maybe in my mind this have sense and this is all connected, but if I don't put it down, maybe the spectators are not able to see this as a tangible thing. So yeah, you're right. I also love the concept, like this book that I was talking about. Like everything is so detailed, and yeah, by turning the pages, you can realize that everything is connected. And so yeah, I want to work on that definitely, and it will be possibly part of my sessions this week.
Awesome, awesome. Love it. Love it when things begin to evolve and shift in mid-process. Thank you, my friend, for chatting with us. Kabuki, now over
Thank
to you, last but not least. Kabuki, your sessions last week were just absolutely amazing as well. I loved what you brought to the Forefront family. Can you catch us up for those who weren't able to watch the ground that you covered, and then dive into a little bit, because I know I'm so looking forward to your sessions this week of what you plan to do with the family this week.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad it resonated with you. So, because basically I set out with this game plan where the first week was kind of like, collecting my thoughts and kind of agreeing on some ground rules, or kind of creating an accountability, how I want to create, or what are the kind of aspects that I want to focus on. Or the first session was actually called Rules and Rituals. So this was kind of my way to share some of the inspiration behind how I work, how I create my discipline, and how I basically stay in a productive zone and avoid procrastinating, and all these things, to be able to understand how you operate as an artist, and then create these guardrails that make sure that you don't fall off during your explorations. I feel like this has been like very, very important for me over the years. And we looked at some examples from famous figures. We looked at some very interesting set of rules that were used for creative purposes. So that was kind of the first session. The focus was on rules and rituals, and the second session was focused on the idea, like, where does nothing comes from a vacuum. There's always like some kind of continuum you operate in as an artist. So at first I kind of wanted to give an idea, like generative art, like where does it come from? Because after all, it's not a very old field of expression. It's the first exhibition was in the 60s, and obviously you needed to have some type of computer, even though there were some artists who thought of themselves as human computers, so they would kind of write code that they would then follow meticulously and create the artwork for that. So I really thought that was a nice way to kind of set the scene, what we are about to embark on, what kind of shoulders we are standing on when we work in this field. Because I feel like this is always the due diligence that I try to apply as an artist, to really understand the medium that I'm working in, just out of respect for the originators. And then we also looked at some of the tools we will be working with and how a generative NFT actually works. What are the mechanisms behind that? What is the abstract kind of functionality? How can you create variants from a smart contract? And that was the second session. And now this week we will be starting to look at the actual tools, like kind of more granular, like within 𝐂𝐫𝐴𝐺, which is the platform that we will be building the NFT in. Like, what kind of specific tools are we going to use, or what tools inspire us? And then from this we will kind of start to create some drafts and go down some dead ends and work out ideas and just iterate and improvise. These are kind of the things that will happen this week. So I'm very curious to see where that will take me. By the way, sorry Caroline, before we move on, I actually pulled up the Buckminster Fuller pages. So if you want to hear a little bit about his crazy rituals. So as we all know, he's been kind of an eccentric, and so in the early 1930s, it occurred to him that the human sleep patterns might no longer be practical for the modern lifestyle. So he figured that if he could train himself to sleep less, he could have more time to work. And so J. Baldwin describes the resulting experiment as high-frequency sleep. So I'm going to quote J. Baldwin on this. A series of trials in 1932 and 1933 convinced him that feeling tired or sleepy was a sign that he had already overtaxed his body and, next page, and his, no, hold on, now I switch to Andy Warhol. Here we go. Overtaxed his body and mind to the point where they had to rest and recuperate. He decided to try deliberately sleeping before that point arrived. If he slept before pushing himself to exhaustion, repair and recuperation might not be necessary. Sleep would be for rest only. Perhaps it could be brief. If he kept to a certain routine, perhaps he would never be tired. After trying many schemes, Bucky found a schedule that worked for him. He catnapped for approximately 30 minutes after each 6 hours of work. Sooner signaled by what he called broken fixation of interest. It worked for him. I can personally attest that many of his younger colleagues and students could not keep up with him. He never seemed to tire. His lectures could go on for 10 hours or more. He seemed to always be scribbling notes, reading, making models, or just prowling around. The ability to keep going in that manner continued undiminished well into his 70s.
Wow. Okay, when did he pass away? Like, how old was he? Does anyone know when he passed away? Like 70s? I'm wondering.
Let's quickly Google
I'm
that.
curious about this. 𝐂𝐫𝐴𝐺, can you drop that in the
87.
chat? Oh my gosh, because I was
You lived to 87.
okay. So this clearly worked. He lived a long life. He was very productive into his late 70s. 𝐂𝐫𝐴𝐺 needs to share this with us. Yeah, exactly. Dwayne is like, I'm all over this. Give us this.
There's actually a really funny last quote by Baldwin. He writes that Fuller also disconcerted observers by going to sleep in 30 seconds, as if he had thrown an off switch in his head. It happened so quickly that it looked like he had a seizure.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm an admirer of Buckminster Fuller. This is the first time that I've ever heard this story. So thank you, 𝐂𝐫𝐴𝐺. And my goodness, this seems like something that anyone should be able to do with the right amount of commitment and training. And the idea of just going to sleep and napping before one feels tired, that is interesting. My goodness. Okay.
Definitely check out the book I posted in my arena channel, because it has these rituals of all crazy people, and it's so inspiring. So I think you will also find something that suits your lifestyle there.
Amazing. Dwayne is asking, have you tried this 𝐂𝐫𝐴𝐺?
I wish I could. I mean, I'm kind of bound by the traditional circadian sleep cycle, but I'm always attracted. There's also like other artists that kind of make their own world in a literal sense. That decide their day is 28 hours long, and then they live by their own rules. I always find this fascinating. Like Lamonte Young, him and his wife, they have a 28-hour day, so basically it keeps shifting, and other people have to adjust to when they want to reach out to them. It's either their night or their day. They don't care. It's their rhythm. I think that's a inspiring kind of concept.
Yes, fascinating, fascinating. Well, friends, I'm glad that Kabuki brought up the arena board because, in case you don't know, there are many different ways to interact with the residency and with our amazing resident creators. The open studios are one, the weekly live sessions and live streams are another. The Discord, the Forefront Discord, is a third sort of community hub. But the fourth one, which we think carries a lot of promise, are the arena channels. We've asked every single one of the resident creators, including the three of cohort one, Ali, Entes, and Alex, to create a arena channel called Creator Journal. And in that channel, we're asking them to drop inspirations, images from sketchbook and journals, prototypes. Like Kabuki has said, sort of books or references or resources that have inspired his sessions. So this is a really, really, and I've seen Nico's where she has links to her Figma board where she's ideating the temple designs that are going into her eco village. So this is a really, really cool way to dive into the behind the scenes of the build and public journey of 𝐸𝐶𝐵 resident creators. So with that, I want to do a very, very, very warm gratitude beamed out to Nico, Kabuki, and Demo for joining me today and just jamming and letting the family know a little bit more about you and your residency projects. This is your second week. Can't wait to see what y'all will do. Can't wait to see what the experiments bear. And we will see you, all three of you, next Monday at the same time. But before then, of course, at your weekly sessions. Until then, my friends, take good care. And thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.